Okay, so you can go ahead and rest back. This is May the 20th. This is our YinDulgence live workshop, and today we're focusing on the spleen meridian and the earth element. So as you rest back, feel the support of the earth underneath you. Let yourself be received and supported by the earth. So in this yin yoga class for our spleen meridian and the earth element, we're attending to the seasonal transition. And this is true, the spleen element comes forward at the end of any late seasonal transition. So for Michelle, or anybody in the southern hemisphere, they're transitioning from late autumn into winter. And for us in the northern hemisphere, we're transitioning from late spring into summer. And these kind of late seasonal transitions into the next season, they can really kick up our anxiety or kick up our sense of, we had such a great discussion of it this morning. Marquetta talked about the way it kicks up our sense or her sense of embodied confusion. And for me, I was like, oh, that's exactly what it feels like. My body just feels confused at this time, these times of late seasonal transitions. And we can experience that in our own bodies. With many different symptoms, emotionally and physically, mentally and spiritually, we really feel in our bodies. And the earth is always a macrocosm for our body's microcosm. And we can see particularly as late autumn transitions into winter, the seasonal transformation, the way the earth returns to its center and prepares for transformation. But this is true in any late seasonal transformation into the next season. So any late seasonal transformation draws us back inwards into our center, draws us back into those yin channels. So late seasonal transitions, they pull us into our yang energy, and then there's that kind of yang impulse gathers us back into our yin energy to ripen our chi, to nurture our light force, and to nourish and nurture ourselves. And so you can just, as you rest back here and receive that support of the earth energy, reflect on and notice how, or if even, that is true for you in your life right now. Okay, so gradually draw yourself together, deepen your breath. And our first yin posture today is going to be toe stand. In toe stand, we'll come and kneel on our toes. So we give those toes a big stretch. So you can roll to your side and come up onto kneeling. Now, if that doesn't work for you, because if you have bunions or hammer toes, you can stretch your toes out against the walls, I'll often show, or you can just stretch your toes out using your hands, or even just massage your toes or massage your feet. So, whatever works best for you. The intention here is just to stimulate the toes because they tend to be the start or end points for the main meridian channels in your lower body. So that's all we're doing here. We won't be here for long. So I'm just going to tuck my toes under. Make sure you get your baby toes too. And we'll just be here for a minute. And remember here too that you can lean forwards. There's not so much pressure going down through your toes as well. So with toe stand, not only are we accessing all the main meridian channels of your lower body, but it really helps to draw the energy down from our head and into our feet, which ground us on the earth. And they support us in standing in our place in this world and on the earth. Okay, so we're going to slowly come out of that and just sit back on your knees, give your toes a chance to adjust. And from here, we'll come right into wide knee child's pose. If that doesn't work, you can lie on your back with your knees to your chest and do wide knees to your chest. Here we want to access the spleen meridian, which is on the inside of your legs. It also runs up your torso. And you can use a bolster here as well, if you want. So find that appropriate edge where you feel tension on the insides of your legs. And then allow your muscles to soften so we can access the deeper connective tissues of your body that wrap around the joints and the bones. And then we resolve to be still so that we stay within the deeper connective tissues of the body and allow time and gravity to do all the work. So the spleen meridian in traditional Chinese medicine is responsible for allowing us to receive food and then have it be distributed through our body. It's kind of very similar to the way our stomach organ works. It works together with our stomach organ. So it energetically moves food, allows us to receive the energy of the food and then move that energy of our food through our body. So it's really about receiving nourishment in our body. And so this meridian and organ meridian is about our ability to give and receive. And like everything in our life, it's quite common for us to go through seasons and notice in these seasons in our life how we can go through periods of overextending ourselves and giving more than we allow ourselves to receive, and how this impacts our own embodied experience when we neglect our own needs. So when the earth element in our body is out of balance, what we may experience is that we worry persistently about many things. Or, with traditional Chinese medicine too, it goes both ways. It's like a chicken and egg thing. You're not sure what happens first. So maybe you're worried about something and then the earth element gets out of balance. Then you worry more about things. So this disturbance of energy depletes our qi, which may negatively affect our ability to digest and transform our thoughts and ideas into actions. And this inability to digest and transform our thoughts and ideas into actions is the inability to express our deepest self. And when we're disconnected from our deepest self, we're not connected to our center. And this is when we find ourselves feeling stuck or a sense of just going around and around in circles. Okay, so slowly make your way out of this wide knee child's pose, and we'll just come onto our backs and rest in on your backs to feel the rebound of that pose. And also when we're resting in the rebound position, feel your connection with the earth. And each time we come back here, just notice if you feel an increased connection with the earth as well. Okay. And then from here, I'm going to have you roll over onto your stomach. I'm going to give you 3 options for the next one in the order in which I'd like you to try them. So the first option is seal pose. And this is something we have been kind of discussing in the live classes, is the presence of yang and yin poses and gathering that yin in for yang expression. So from yin comes yang. So in seal pose, you're going to feel your legs on the ground, feel your pelvis on the ground, and then you take your hands with your palms facing out and you lift up is kind of like, seal is kind of like a modified version of cobra. And in this pose, feel the support of your arms like posts, and feel the support of your spine. And we will be staying here for 5 minutes. So, and we are going to be doing this pose twice. So if you know this kind of kicks up, if that feels like too much for you, then you could do Sphinx instead. And if that still feels like it kicks up stuff for you, so for me, because I've already done it twice today, I am going to modify this. And I'm going to do, it's supported with a bolster because I can feel my neck kind of getting cranky about it because I've been in it for 10 minutes already today. But I would like you to have the experience of being in it if it's possible. So I've started the timer now. And feel the support of it. If you can, stay long through the back of your neck. Keep your ears back over your shoulders. Really feel the support of your arms and your spine, so you feel that yang support that is holding up this yin posture, and soften into it. Okay? Otherwise, you could come into a more restorative pose where you're taking the shape, and but then you don't get that sense of experiencing the yin and the yang more. So here we can focus on our own inner healing by connecting with the earth element, and particularly here you're feeling that connection to the earth under your pelvis, under your legs. Also a really strong sense of earthiness I feel coming up through your arms, through your spine. So there's a really strong sense of groundedness in this pose that really allows you to connect with your spleen meridian. And also we connect with our own inner healing by strengthening and reconnecting with our own center and listening to our inner voice. So strengthening our center may mean bringing our words and actions into harmony by balancing our commitments and not overextending. And also when we practice yin yoga, connecting to the earth, noticing how we are connecting to the earth. So literally feeling that connection as we just described. But it also may mean taking that time, going outside, feeling your connection to the earth when you're in nature. And also just taking the time to be quiet each day, unplugging from the noise of our world, the noise of social media, even the noise, the mental noise that we get from reading, from experts, from media, so that we have a way to listen to the soft, quiet voice from within, and so we can follow its guidance and give that voice expression. Okay, so if you're in seal or sphinx, you're going to slowly lower down and feel the rebound on your stomach and feel that connection with the earth as well. And then we're going to push up onto all fours. And we're coming back to that child's pose again with the wide knees. And if it doesn't work for you, you could do a recline twist on your back. But this time we're going to do a variation with twists. So you're going to walk over to your right knee and lower your left shoulder to the ground and the left side of your head to the ground so that you're in wide knee child's pose with a twist. And choose an edge that you can stay with for 5 minutes. So you might want to back off a bit in terms of how far to the right you go with the twist, or even how wide you have the knees go. Just pay attention to how it's feeling in your body. So our spleen organ meridian system is not just responsible for processing all the food that we consume and distributing it energetically through our body, but also all the stimulus as well. And it's not an overstatement to say that we are overstimulated in our culture. So our spleens do have a lot to deal with. And for many, this results in spleen deficiency. And then I think it's really common to feel this at the end of seasons with those seasonal transitions into the next season. The spleen is directly related to our capacity for thinking, for mental processing, emotional processing, spiritual processing, how well we manage our thoughts, how we concentrate, how we exercise discernment and form intentions. All of this is dependent on the strength of the spleen. Okay, slowly, very carefully gather yourself out of this pose on this side, and we will take some time to feel the rebound on your backs and your connection with the earth. And then we'll come back into the pose to do the other side. So if you're doing the reclined twist, you can twist to the other side. Otherwise, we're going to come into that wide knee child's pose again. And this time, instead of walking over to the right knee, we'll walk over to the left knee and we'll do that twist. So you walk your hands over to the left knee, lower your right shoulder down this time, and the right side of your head, extend your left arm overhead, and then just soften all the muscles. So the spleen meridian is on the insides of the legs and runs up the front of the torso. So you're definitely affecting the whole thing here. So as we come out of the late season and transition into the next season, the yang energy gets kicked up. And in the northern hemisphere, we're gearing up for a peak yang time of year with the longest days of the year, the most daylight, the shortest nights. And in the southern hemisphere, there's still an abundance of yang with the harvest of fruits and vegetables, and there's the kind of peak of growth. And with all of this yang, it's important to balance the yang energy of our environment. And I just want to note that the yang energy of the environment is both natural, but also the constant man-made yang energy of our environment. So we want to balance that yang energy by gathering in the yin energy, because the yang energy is not sustainable without the yin energy that comes from underneath. So the earth element allows us to ground, to have solid roots, to connect with the earth. It's where the yin energy comes from to sustain the yang. So with yin energy, we turn inwards from the outward expressions of yang energy and move inward to more nurturing and nourishing yin energies for balance. And with the late season transitions, this is exactly probably what our bodies are calling for. Okay, so slowly come out of this pose and make your way onto your back to feel the rebound. And again, just see if you can open to and sense that increased sense of interconnection with the earth here. Since our bodies are not separate from the earth, we're always connected. Okay, and then we're going to come back onto our bellies and we're going to return to the seal pose and experience the way that the yin informs the yang and how we can be within the yin qualities in a more yang yin pose. So feel the support of the earth underneath you. Your arms are wider than your hands are wider than your shoulders. Feel your pelvis on the ground, and then you're going to lift up. And if that feels supported and you can soften into it and it feels okay in the back of your neck, your shoulders can stay down and relax, then you can stay there. Or you can come into Sphinx pose here. And if all of that doesn't feel good in your neck and it feels like it might trigger a headache for you, then you can always come into a supported back bend with a bolster. Because we're going to practice staying here for 5 minutes. So see what feels right for you and your body today. So today, as we connect with the earth energy in here, feel the earth again through your legs, earth energy through your legs, through the front of your pelvis. And somebody with a well-developed earth energy is grounded, nurturing, compassionate. They would be depicted as the archetypal earth mother. Earth people bring others together. They make good mediators and peacekeepers. They're reliable friends. They often enjoy both preparing food and eating. And the chi of earth energy, it flourishes in the late summer. You can think about it you can really think of its expression through the colors of late summer, those golden moments of fullness before the waning light, like the setting sun. And so here again, we can take our cues from nature. And we can find that balance like nature does in late summer. So although we want to make hay while the sun shines, so to speak, we also want to take time to rest like the setting sun and honor the shortening days, the short days, like the days shorten in late summer. So there's that quality of turning inwards in late summer as the yin starts to gather inwards to prepare for winter. And so, too, we want to reflect on the ways that we're being called inwards to gather the yin energy when the yang is in its expressiveness, like that the amazing colors of a sunset. So within that, there's a descending energy too, right? Within the way that the abundance of the harvest in late fall, there's a descending energy. Everything's about to go dormant as well. So there's a natural turning inwards that's happening. So reflect on the way that you're being called inwards despite uh, full expressions of yang. So this morning we talked a lot after class about how in the energy of spring, we can have a lot of energy, but that we have to balance that too. There's still that yin energy uh, being called to balance it out. Okay, so slowly lower down, lie on your belly on the earth. And again, feel that support of the yin energy rising up from the earth. And then you're going to push yourself back and up again, and we're going to come into, it's called dragonfly in yin, but it's wide-legged seated fourfold. So it's useful to have a folded blanket so you can sit elevated a little bit so that you can roll your pelvis over your leg bones more easily. And then you're just going to roll your pelvis over your leg bones. Here, the intention is to feel the energy running on the inside of your legs more than anything for that spleen meridian. And it's nice to use your bolster here. So depending on your flexibility, some of you may be able to lie your bellies right down on your bolster if it's flat. But if you're more like me, you'll probably need to have your bolster upright and then rest your head on it like this. And then that's nice because your head can just rest here. So when we're grounded in the earth, it allows us to be connected into the earth so that we don't get pulled up into our heads with rumination and worry. And here, just note where you feel in your body where you are connected to the earth. Let your feet be soft. So maybe in a more yang style yoga class, you might pull your toes back towards your face in this class. But in this class, let your ankles be soft, let your feet be soft so that your muscles are soft in this pose. And also feel the connection with the earth along the backs of the legs, the backs of the calves, the backs of the hamstrings. So this also allows you to really connect with the earth. And all of this helps it so that your mind doesn't get pulled into the busyness of overthinking. This is part of nourishing the earth element so that your mind remains grounded. And you might even just check in and notice if your mind feels more grounded than when we started. This taking the time to nourish ourselves with the earth element does help to reduce stress and helps us to be more centered and grounded. Okay, so come up slowly first so your body is vertical and feel the vertical flow of energy in your body first. And then we'll lie down, slowly bring your legs in. And then we'll lie down and feel the rebound and our connection with the earth. Okay, and then from here, we're going to come into a reclined twist. So take your arms out into a soft T, press into your feet, lift your hips, take them over to the right side of your mat, and let your knees fall over to the left side of your mat. So we remember that yin nourishes yang. In late summer, this time of decrease is considered a time of abundance. So it's not, it's, we need to remember that less is more and that yin nourishes yang. This time of slowing down and gathering in is how we gather the yin resources to nourish the yang. And this is yin is a way, one of the aspects of yin is holding. You can think of yin as holes and caves and darkness. So we're gathering in the energy in these, in the caves in these times. So uh, when you feel like you're running in circles or running around like a chicken with your head cut off, or you're feeling that excess energy that makes you feel like you have the like you have anxiety or mental tension, or you just feel off kilter or off center, um, it's okay. Those are those signs to come inwards and gather the chi inwards in those holding tanks again. So, from the perspective of our spiritual lives, the earth element grants us the ability to internalize the mother, the archetypal mother, by learning to nourish and care for ourselves. So, here with the yin, we slow down and we gather in. And at the end of the season, we can reflect on all that the season has brought us, and we can be content. So, in late spring, we can reflect on all the beautiful blossoms that late spring has brought us, that spring has brought us. Or in autumn, we can reflect on all of the harvest that we've had. And we can look back on the season and reflect on the fruits of the season and all that it's brought us. Okay, so very slowly and carefully, and you might want to engage that yang energy through your abdominals to come back to center, press into your feet, and then pause in the center. Allow your spine to unwind. Feel your connection to the earth. And then we'll come into the twist on the other side. So you'll press into your feet again. Lift your hips, take them over to the left side of the mat this time. And then drop your knees over to the right side of your mat. So we're going to slow down and gather in. Recognize what we've received from the season and acknowledge where we are in the cycle of the season. Acknowledge what we've received from our experience. And acknowledge how we've nourished ourselves through this past season. And from this, we can recognize where our needs are, how best to fill them from a sense of compassion. And by extension, we can become caretakers of the earth as well, not just caretakers of ourselves, but we can recognize how we can care for the earth as well. Okay, so you're going to slowly come back to center. Press into your feet, untuck your hips, and then gather up your props so you can come into your final Shavasana. Take the bolster underneath your knees. It can be very grounding to gather yourself in towards your belly by placing your hands on your belly. And again, feel the support of the earth underneath you here. So you can continue to rest back in Shavasana. I will read you a poem here. This poem is called Kelp Forest, and it's one that I wrote. Once consumed by the collective pulse of self-exploitation, exhausting my own internal resources, my head overpowered by my body precariously out of proportion like the gaseous bulbs of bull kelp, the ropey strands of my legs regularly gave out underneath me as I searched tenaciously for a place to hold fast. Today I breathe easier in metabolic relation with the kelp forests deep within the ocean, our bony toes wrapped tightly around secure rocks, grounded on the ocean floor, while our flexible bodies dance freely in graceful ribbons of hair flow with the oceanic currents. So gradually allow your breath to deepen. Wiggle and stretch out. And slowly make your way up to a seated position. We're going to sit and center ourselves before we unmute. So when you come to a seated position, you can sit on a chair, you can sit in your meditation cushion, or you can sit kneeling on your block, but just make sure your pelvic floor is connected to the earth and feel the support of the earth underneath you. And notice what it feels like to have those nourishing earth energies, the yin energies that nourish the yang, coming to be connected with them. Feel the rootedness, the groundedness. And notice how it animates your being. So feel how the yin animates the yang. Notice how it lengthens up your spine, opens up the back of your neck and your head. And know that each one of us here has access to that connection to the earth and the earthiness within us. So that when we open up the lines so that we can each speak about our experience, that each one of us comes from this place of connection to the earth and the sense of earthiness from within us. So there's no need to fix or change anybody or to offer anybody advice. And we all know we can speak from that sense of earthiness within us, our connection to the earth. We speak from a place of I, using the words I, not you. And so from this connection with the earth now, Just reflect back on your experience of this yin class and notice what stands out for you, what feels most important. Okay, so I'm going to open up the lines so that you can each have a chance to speak about your experience. I got to grab my earpiece.
Before I came to the mat for this class, I had been in a large group of people at a
Mm-hmm.
barbecue. And when I hit the mat, I was scattered. My thoughts were jumbled. I had just not felt centered at all. But as a result of this class, I feel integrated, I feel centered, and very relaxed and comfortable in my own skin.
I knew you were going to say that, in my own skin.
How did you know that?
I just knew those words were coming out.
Uh,
Doesn't that feel so good to just feel comfortable in your own skin?
yes, very much so. Because I did, like I said, when I came to the mat, I was totally different. So it's nice to know that there's a process that you can go through to reach that point. I spent a lot of my life not knowing that.
Yeah, and I think I just want to say too that I still experience a lot of my life feeling there are periods in my life where I feel like you just say, you were at a barbecue, and so then I like, whatever it is, these seasonal transitions or whatever it is, there are lots of times in my life where I feel uncomfortable in my own skin, or I don't feel integrated, and I feel the opposite of what I feel right now, and it doesn't feel right.
That's right.
And to know that uh, I have these practices, it's like I have to make a mental note right now.
I,
that I know that that spleen classes are actually really good for when I feel that kind of spinning out. Yeah.
I've always thought my of the introversion versus the extroversion. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always felt that I was more introverted than extroverted. And when I get around a large group of people, I feel myself just going, "Ugh."
Mm-hmm.
I just sort of fold and get quiet because there's people talking all around you and looking for airtime. And I find myself actually listening more than talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
so yeah, from the teachings today, right? The spleen energy, there's that imbalance of the giving and the receiving. Yeah.
yeah,
And then there are other personalities that really receive a lot from those kind of events and exchanges, right?
right.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel my energy depleted
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
after, even though the day was fine and it was a nice gathering, I always feel a little when I get home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to know this was waiting for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've noticed that all of our yin classes are on the ground. We don't do any standing. And I guess that's the earth connection that you talk about. And falling into gravity rather than resisting. Does that have anything to do with it?
Yeah, you pretty much summarized that, Barbara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're right. All yin classes are all on the earth. So I think there would be two reasons for that. One, as you say, that we're releasing into gravity, we're letting gravity do all the work for us. And
Mhm.
then two would be that the yin nourishing energy really does rise up from the earth. If we think about um, yin nourishing yang, the ultimate holding place for the yin energy is in the earth. It's dinner time for your puppies, right?
Yes.
Even I
Yeah.
know that now.
Yeah, for me, it's after 6 o'clock, and they usually eat about 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always feed my cats at 6:30 right before like this or the meditation class because if not, they'll be like. I have one cat. We call him Fat Louie. His name's Louie, but he's kind of fat, and he sits on you and he will like sit on your face until you feed him. So if you're laying down in meditation, I learned that the hard way. I was getting like pawed in the cheek one time. So now make sure to get them before class. So now
That's
they're all
right.
sleeping and yeah, snoozing away, and I can do my own thing.
That's right.
I had a lot of similar experiences to Barbara, but also a lot of unsimilar things because um, I like when you're talking about feeling comfortable in your own skin and stuff after the class, lately I've definitely felt more comfortable in my own skin and I've just not been hard on myself and I've been feeling really good. I guess I feel really connected with my inner self lately. But during the class today and then before the class, my brain was like very scattered. I had a very difficult time. I could feel that energy of like that transition energy, and there's a lot going on transition wise in my life right now and also in my husband's life right now, so I can definitely really feel that. And then I just didn't like mentally, I couldn't stay present during the class. I was thinking about what I need to get done for tomorrow. I was thinking about what happened earlier in the day, and then I would remind myself, okay, be present, right
Yeah.
now, and thinking about like the 8 limbs of yoga yums, like not. I kept thinking about that non-stealing. I'm stealing away from this present moment. I'm thinking about something else and stuff. So I was thinking about that, anyway, just kept bringing my brain, back, and it was like back and forth, back and forth. And so that was the whole class, even all the way till the end. It was like yo-yo.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so that's just what I've been feeling. And then also, Barbara mentioned about the barbecue and just feeling totally like depleted and stuff like that, and that got me thinking. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but it makes sense to me. And I tell my husband this. I said I am an introvert and an extrovert because I have no problem talking and interacting with people. That's fine. But there comes a point, like, I feel like I draw my energy from within, like classes like these. I need some type of like restoring, like, and I feel like a cat or like a lion. I have like stamina where I can like short stamina. Like I can interact with people for a while, but then I need like a cat nap, or I need to like recharge or something like that. So I like these classes a lot, but today it was just a lot of mental thinking. Nothing bad or anything, just to-do lists, things that just normal life stuff, I guess.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And I think that this is why I love the focus on the seasons so much too, is that we really don't have to beat ourselves up for them at all, because there's going to be seasons to our practices too. There was a post that Marquetta put up on my mat today. It was yesterday that I responded to, that I just loved. And it was where she had this realization that she doesn't have to have this great big realization every time she comes to her mat. And I was like, oh, well, yes, thank God, right? There's going to be so many seasons to our practice, right? And some seasons we're going to come to our mat, and then we're going to be met with this, crazy spinning mind like you were met with today, Kate. Like that's a season of practice, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the season of practice is going to be resistance, right? Where you just don't want to be there for however long that lasts. Sometimes the season is going to be, I'm having this most amazing, sometimes you're in the summer season of your practice where there's so much abundance and you're just drawing it all in. And it doesn't have to be one thing either. Sometimes multiple things can be going on at a time. So, I feel like the longer I practice, the less I freak out about the seasons of the practice, and life, that life is going to be seasonal too. But that the yin and the yang, like you say, like I really love the analogy of the lion, right? Because in nature, the lion does have these short bursts of yang activity, and then he naps for 23 hours, right? And we could learn something from that, because we're just expected in our culture to be on all the time without taking the time to renew ourselves. So both are important. And I think in our culture we kind of beat ourselves up for that time that we need to renew ourselves. Or like today in your practice, Kate, like maybe you couldn't come down, but maybe like sometimes it can take me 2 hours to come down from that monkey mind, right?
Yeah.
So it just depends. And that's where I think the seasons and the yin and the yang is just so great. That's why I love this philosophy of practice.
Yeah, and I remember, too, I think it was last week in meditation class or the week before, you were talking about just like listening to your body, and like you talk about the transitions and the seasons of your yoga practice, and that like just listening to kind of what your body wants and what your body needs, and that it has like its own intelligence. And ever since you said that, and you've said that in the past a lot too, it's just like really hit me, like whatever I'm kind of craving, so to speak, is like that's what's right type of thing or whatever. So I've noticed that with practices like because there would be bouts. A couple months ago, I had bouts where I was doing like all sun salutations, believe that or not, you know, because I'm not like a sun salutation person. And I notice I get different effects from that type of practice, like sun salutations and things. My mind is like cleared because all I'm focusing on is like doing the poses because they're more challenging. But I think practices like these for me are more mentally challenging because I'm always trying to bring my mind back. There's like more chance for your mind to wander in things, and so yeah, it is kind of like that lion like energy, like to go and come back and go. And I with my husband, I have an excuse because I'm a Leo. It's like my astrological sign, so I said I'm very true to a lion or whatever. But yeah,
It's really good. And also to recognize too, when we come into our bodies, like that Marquetta, she's a smart one. She's a new member. She's a smart cookie, though. She has a lot of powerful insights, even though she's given herself permission not to have powerful insights. But this morning she talked about how at the change of season that she's experiencing confusion in our body. So that when we come into our body, that confusion is a state that we can recognize too, you know. And I think that that's a very common, at least for me, I could really relate to that in the transition, in the kind of spinning out, that kind of, Kate, when you said we need to listen to our bodies and do what our bodies wants. Well, sometimes when we come into our bodies, like I was, at this time of year, I can walk into the kitchen and it's time to make a meal, and I just think, I don't even know what I want right now, right? Or I come to my mat and I think, I don't even know what my body wants right now, right? So that confusion can be a state that the body can be in too.
yeah.
I can relate to that. I'm Anya. Hello.
Hi, Anya.
Hi. What Kate said about focusing better when you're doing more like vinyasa things, where you focus on the choreography and how to move. I have the same experience that I drift off into thoughts quite easily during the gym practice. Although I do feel better afterwards. I do feel more grounded and calmer and everything. But it really is a hard exercise for me to stay with my body instead of going through the to-do list. And this is definitely a busy time of the year for me. It's the end of school year, so we go through a lot of to-do lists.
Yeah, so it's good that, and you can respond appropriately for your body.
Yeah, the yin practice always brings me back down and calms me. So I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, and a big part of the yin practice is that it is a more challenging practice. It is an advanced practice, and it will bring you up against your edge mentally. So it is actually a meditation practice. You're doing your meditation in 5-minute increments. So you will come up against that edge mentally, right, in those spaces, particularly in the silent spaces. So that is part of the practice, those emotional and mental edges that you are encountering.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I feel at the age I am now, which is I just turned to 80, and I feel that my whole life is a yin practice now. I live alone except for my 2 animals. I have a small circle of friends, but I'm alone a great deal. And I think that's why I'm so attracted to this yin practice. And I will say this, I like the mixture that you do with the yin and the yang. I think that's a beautiful blend. Here we
So
go. Now the other one's coming. Worse food.
So it is true that we do go through stages of life. So let's go over to the analogy of Ayurveda now. So we go
Okay.
through Kapha, Pitta, and Vata stages of life. So first we're in that kapha stage of life when we're young babies and we have lots of water in our bodies and we're actually chubby, we have chubby cheeks and we have chubby bodies and we have lots of water and we tend to think about when we're little, we tend to get lots of colds, mucousy colds and things like that. So we're kapha in nature when we're little. Then in our middle life, we're pitta. And so, like Kate, it doesn't surprise me that you like the more vinyasa style practices and they engage you. And you see this in our culture that young people in their 20s really like the vinyasa practices
Right.
because it does very much engage them in their lives. It's a very active practice and it meets them where they are. So at that stage in our lives, in the pitta stage of our lives, we're out, we're working, we're earning our incomes. That's what's happening at the pitta stage of our life. We're more athletic at that stage of our lives. So we have a lot of fire in our belly. We're raising our families. That's the pitta stage of our life. And then later as we get older, our bodies start to dry out. We get older, we're no longer raising our family. That's the waning stage of our lives. That is the Vata stage of our lives. And then you start to experience things like arthritis in your joints, your joints dry out. Yeah. And you slow down. You do slow down. It's normal. It's a normal part of life. You're no longer working. You don't have to hustle like you did in your midlife. That's normal. And so it is true that this style of practice, the yin style of practice, is more appropriate for you in your 80s because it does attend to your joints and it does allow you to move more slowly. So definitely it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does to me.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, like you say, in my 20s, I was doing aerobics and
Right.
and all that stuff. And slowly, now here I am.
Yeah.
But I love this. I love this stage. I really do because I have time. I
Yes.
remember when I got my first dog, it was after I retired from my job, and I had time to train him and be with him, And I feel that way now. I feel I have time to do things. I'm doing art things I never dreamed in my 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s that I would ever be interested in or have any measure of talent. But with practice, I'm just enjoying myself to death with the art things I'm doing. Never had time before.
Yeah. And those of you in our membership community, a lot of you hear Lucille talking a lot like this too, right? At this stage in her life too, because she's done that stage of her life with her work life as well. Same kind of things, just really slowing down and enjoying her life.
Really.
It's really uplifting for those of us who still work, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, have a good future.
I know I agree with you, Anya. I listen to you, Barbara. I listen to Lucille. I don't know about you, Maria, but I really listen to those of you that are in that Vata stage of life more, and I do really look forward to it because I see you basking in that glow, in that sunset, right?
Yes.
Hi, Anna.
Yeah, and it's
Okay, go ahead, Kate.
I was gonna say, and it seems like these yin practices that you teach would also maybe help balance out people that aren't in the Vata stage yet, or that are like the midlife or whatever that you talked about, or the pittas, or how long are you in the Kapha stage? Just when you're like through like teenage years?
Yeah, you can see it when you're little. It's really when you're young.
Yeah.
You can see it in your bodies. And like little kids have asthma too, and they tend to outgrow it, right?
Right.
Really, so then you pretty much grow out of it in your adolescence, right? When your body starts to lean out, then you get into your pitta stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of see how this would balance out that
Yeah.
type of active, like, well, I don't really love vinyasas. I go through like bouts where I do a lot of it and then bouts where I don't. But my husband and I, we like to run. I ride my bike everywhere. So there's a lot of activity. You think about the yin, it brings everything kind of back down. And when I think of people my age, like they aren't really doing a lot of this. It seems like there's not a lot of balance, or when I go to yoga studio classes, it's all vinyasa, which I'm like, I'm so over. And stuff. So yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of balance in that aspect. I feel like in my observations.
Yeah, I think your observation would be correct. I think there isn't a lot of balance in our culture, generally speaking, because there's so much in our culture that just allows us to stay in a pitta mode all the time, like just to stay in that very fired up mode. So if you look at just, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a coffee a day, but the coffee has become almost a fashion accessory, right? And
Yep.
we can stimulate ourselves to keep going, and then we go to bed stimulated and we have insomnia at night, right? So we've stimulated ourselves so that we can't even stay balanced anymore. And we do this with various things, with sugar and social media, and there's so many things that we do this with. So balance is something that we have really lost track of in our culture, and it's very difficult not to get swept up in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even because if for any of us who are working, like Anya's working, Maria's working, I'm working, all of it's very, if you're in that world, you're absorbing the energy of that world all the time, right? And it takes a lot of conscious effort to come back into balance all the time. Would you guys agree with that?
Yep.
I completely agree with that. It takes me a long time every day. I mean, every day I come to my mat, just balancing all that energy that I expend through the day. And most times I do a yin practice or, meditation or whatever, just to balance all that energy, because it gets to be too much if you don't balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like Maria has a stressful job too. So I could imagine, like, all with your boss. We all know about your boss,
Of course, everybody knows about it.
On top of that,
Yeah.
like a double whammy.
I tell you, putting up with him, like sometimes it takes me 2 hours just to wind down. I mean, completely, so I could, rest and relax. But it takes time. And sometimes I need more of a yin practice. Sometimes I need both, really, to like balance it out. So
if we go back to Kate's analogy of the lion, and we think about, so you say 2 hours, and it seems like a long time, but Kate's analogy of the lion who expends like 20 minutes to do the hunt so that the lion can survive. And actually, it's the females that do the hunting, right? So she does the hunt. And how long maybe that would take? 20 minutes, if even. And then how much of the rest of the day does she spend restoring her energy so that she can go out and do the next hunt? And that's the king of the animal kingdom.
right.
So there's nothing wrong with what is required to come into balance. If we look at, so it could be interesting to observe it in nature, even like look at your pets.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I mean, you might take your dogs for a walk and the rest of the day they're napping, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's been a lot of time napping.
And they have no guilt,
No,
animals.
That's right.
Guilt. It's like what we do. So
no.
wow.
If we take time to take a nap, it's like, oh my God, we didn't do so many things, but they just nap all day. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's great power to be had in napping.
There is. Very good.
I love it. I love an afternoon nap. And it doesn't seem to bother me sleeping either. I don't have trouble going to sleep after I read your book, Melissa. Hush.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a mind-opening book for me because I always got nervous when I would wake up in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep. Now I have permission to just lay there and relax.
That's right.
It might last 2 hours, but I go back to sleep peacefully eventually.
Yeah, that Hush is a great book. And also if you're worried about taking naps, there's a great book. It's got kind of a cheesy title, but it's called Take a Nap, Change Your Life. And that one will change your mind about taking naps too.
Good. Well, I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Because there's a lot of research that shows taking naps will not interfere with your nocturnal sleep at all.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. But those two books are great. And I think we've got that one on our list to read as a community, don't we, Maria?
I think so.
Belonging, yeah.
Belonging, and I'd like Hush to go on there at some point.
Well, Hush is a really good book.
Yeah.
That could definitely be a. Yeah.
And he wrote another book that's more in depth. I don't remember what the name of it is. I don't know, but the same author that wrote.
I have it on my Kindle. Yeah.
He has two books. They're both excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really good book too.
Make you look at sleep in a whole different world, different way. Well, I'm going to have to say goodbye because my dogs now are raising Cain out the neighborhood, telling him that.
Bye, Barbara.
Bye, Barbara.
Bye.
Does anybody else have anything that is bubbling to the surface about their experience that they want to speak about?
I do want to ask a question, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've experienced this a lot, and I just want to know if this is okay or if it means I need to back out of a pose. Like when we do child's pose or like sitting back, I get like numbness in my feet. Is that normal for a yin when we hold the poses that long, or does that mean I need to come out of it?
Yeah, you need to back off if you're getting numbness, for sure.
Okay.
Because that could be nerve compression or something like that. There's a yin class where I talk about exactly what it means, and I can go back and look up for you what it means. But yeah, you definitely need to back off.
It just seems to be only when like in child's pose or anything where we're like back, like sitting back like that. I don't know. So okay.
Yeah, there's something that's being compressed, and that's a really good sign that you need to back off, or that it's too deep or something there. There's something being compressed.
Okay.
And over time you could do damage. So
okay.
Yeah. Good question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've really enjoyed this time together. I know for me it was incredibly beneficial. I've definitely been in that circle mode lately. The spinning mode of the late seasonal transition. So thank you. I've enjoyed this time together. And for those of you that attend meditation, I will see you tomorrow. Okay. Have a great evening, everybody. All of you are in your evenings. Okay. Have a good evening, everybody.
Namaste.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Namaste.
Namaste.